Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore-Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. Thanks you a lot for joining us here on this Monday. Jim Coyle with you. Brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and looking forward to getting a lot in today. A lot of guests. Greg Rakestraw is going to join us. Don Fischer, Dustin Dopirak, and we have got a lot to cover as this weekend covered a lot. And right off the bat, we've got the man from ISB Sports, Greg Rakestraw. How are you, sir? How was your weekend?
The weekend was good. It would be better with the Colts win. But then again, Jim, I have hosted the Colts postgame show for 13 years, and their record on opening day is 1-12. So if you could send some Hard Truth product my way, I would be greatly appreciative.
Absolutely. That is something we definitely need to get taken care of regardless, and we'll do so. Man, that is one of the weirdest streaks in sports. Normally, when you have a losing streak of any kind, it's by a team that is losing. But you cannot look at the last 11 seasons and say the Colts are a losing franchise. That's what's so mind-boggling about this.
Well, they have been average is the way to describe it. And, we have, there's different metrics you can use. It's now been 10 years since the Colts, won the AFC South, third year of Andrew Luck in 2014. There's kind of the marking of time of the Chris Ballard era. This is year 8. And they have won one playoff game during that time and have not been a playoff team since 2020. So those that are into overreaction Monday, oh, this is the worst. Oh, this person is the worst. No, that's not true. But have they been the best? No, that's not been true either. And I'm not ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater after week 1 because there were some things that were a struggle that you kind of saw coming. I think the most concerning thing were the things that were a struggle that you didn't see coming, like run defense and like Jonathan Taylor running the football. You have to take it in consideration. We all think the Houston Texans are pretty good. And I would say that bore out yesterday, and the Colts were 2 points away from them. So now the question is going to be, if you get to them a second time around, when you get to them a second time around, can you shore those things up? And can you basically do what you did last year, which is in this series, have the two road teams win the games? Can you level it up when you see those guys again in the not too distant future?
Yeah, the defense definitely a disappointment of somewhat. But Houston looked like they were in midseason form. I mean, they looked good. They were playing well. They were crisp. And Indianapolis just looked a step behind. And then on offense, Anthony Richardson, as when I saw him, and I've said this, in his last preseason game, he was okay. He had a great opening drive, and then it kind of went downhill. And I'm like, man, I don't know if he has that confidence yet or what, but he just does not have the look of the guy at this moment yet.
I would say this. I thought there was far more good than bad of Anthony Richardson yesterday. And if you look at, what he did running the football, obviously he has those 3 bombs that he completes. He was responsible for 75% of the Colts offense yesterday. So would I like to see my quarterback complete more than 9 passes in a game? Yep. Would I like to see my quarterback have a better than 50% completion percentage? Yep. But at the same time, I don't look at the guy that wore number 5 and that he was the problem yesterday. Were there plays that could have been made? Sure. He missed A.D. Mitchell on what would a touchdown pass. On the interception, did he overthrow the guy? Yeah. Did I like the route combination? No. Did Kylan Granson slip on that play? Yeah. So there were some other mitigating factors there. But again, you know what your team is for the most part going into a game. And so if you tell me that CJ Stroud's going to have a completion percentage of 75% and is going to make big plays on third down, I kind of saw that coming because that's both what he has done in his first year in the league, but it's also kind of what the Colts defense has had problems with in the past. It's the fact that the Colts defense is set up to be pretty stout against the run, and Joe Mixon lit them up. And as a team, the Texans had 213 yards rushing. That has not been the MO of them. It's not been the MO of the Colts defense. Jonathan Taylor has basically taken transfer of deed from T.Y. Hilton in terms of owning the Houston Texans. He had 16 carries for 48 yards yesterday. And so maybe part of that's week one. Maybe part of that is that, again, Houston's a pretty good football team, but that's what's most concerning. Anthony having some inaccuracy issues, you knew that's going to say he's going to have to work on. The Colts secondary being young and not as talented as their front seven, we kind of knew that going in. It's the problems you don't expect to have that are the ones that are the most concerning after week number one.
The good thing is with number one, there's a week number two. And so they get to put that in the outgoing mail and not forget about it. You got to learn from it, but you've got to improve on it, and you have to start improving on it right now. There has to be improvement between weeks 1 and 2 on this team. I'm not saying they have to win, but if they don't, they're going to quickly find themselves in a very, very bad position.
And here's the crazy thing, Jim, is that most years they've done that. So for as terrible as week 1 has been historically, they've usually bounced back and won in week number 2, which they did last year in Houston. And again, they get a bit of a gift now in week number 2. They're not going to see Jordan Love at Lambeau Field. They're going to get Malik Willis at Lambeau Field because the knee injury he suffered on Friday night. So I'm not sure if you caught that. I know you were busy watching Indiana score 77 points against Western Illinois on Friday night.
I wasn't doing Jordan push-ups for that.
I'm not sure any of us were doing the push-ups for that. So anyway, so the Colts have plenty of questions to answer from week number 1. But at the same time, the Packers are now dealing with a question they didn't want to have the answer to, and that is what's life going to look like without Jordan Love for at least the next few weeks.
Absolutely. And hopefully they'll get things turned around because, like I said, losing a game, it's not a big deal. No one expected the Colts to go undefeated, and they lost to Houston. Well, that sucks because it's a divisional game. It's not you're not losing to someone you're not supposed to lose to. But
correct. And Jimmy, I'm not ceding the division title, to Houston after 1 week. But at the same time, my thought has always been, hey, listen, you have not made the playoffs in 4 years. Get to 10 wins, get a wild card. Anything on top of that is a bonus. So that's kind of my view of the world. And again, we learned so much about these teams in week number 1 in terms of what we think the schedule is going to be. The Packers, the degree of difficulty in that game just changed. The Bears won. They didn't look like world beaters. The Steelers won. Their defense looked like world beaters, but offensively, no great shakes there. So the next several games are in play for this football team. It's not like I see what happened in week number 1 and I go, man, I don't know about this football team. I still think at the end of the day, yesterday was more about the Houston Texans being really good than the Indianapolis Colts potentially being really bad.
Yeah, and they'll get a chance to turn that around as the season is now started, and hopefully they can do just that. Otherwise, you've got a lot of it's time for the Colts to step it up for a number of reasons. Number one, and I'm not going to get into the Chris Ballard GM thing, but his butt's on the line here, and I think it's this year or this season. It has to happen now. And they've got to move forward. They have to make a move to where you can see, okay, there's forward progress here.
And you saw that last year, and what that actually did is kind of sped up the timeline for Anthony Richardson. And again, that's what made last year so unique, interesting, and even tough to look at in the rearview mirror because you have this 5-win improvement from a 4-win team and the disaster that having Matt Ryan as the quarterback was in 2022. And, the year for patience for Colts fans was last year. Well, you proceed to win 9 games with your backup quarterback for the most part. And so now those expectations have changed, while yet there will still be growing pains for Anthony Richardson, because yesterday was basically the 4th complete game that he has played in the National Football League. Again, I thought there was far more positive than negative from Anthony Richardson yesterday. But yes, last year was kind of this pleasant surprise. There's nothing surprising about this year. There are the weight of expectations, and let's see how this football team handles it.
Absolutely. Did you get a chance to catch any college ball?
A little bit, but frankly, these days my attention is high school on Friday night, is Colts on Sunday, and then whatever I get to see on Saturday is a little me time. Is just checking scores as they go by. I do realize that for the Indiana Hoosiers, it was the most points they have scored since playing Franklin College in 1901. That said, I do have filed away from the weekend.
And I'll talk about this with other people today, but it cracks me up every time I hear someone say, well, that was against nobody. Da, da, da. I'm like, do you think in the last 125 or 23 years they have not played nobodies countless times? They played nobodies a lot, and they had no other team has scored 77 points. I don't care who you are. That is it's an achievement, especially when a team like this does it.
Well, I'll disagree. Western Illinois is one of the worst teams in FCS football and has lost 25 consecutive games. And if you've ever been to Macomb, it's not like they can fall back on the scenic beauty of the place to console them. It is the absolute middle of nowhere. So Indiana has done what they were supposed to do the first 2 weeks of the year, and that is dispatch mediocre to bad football teams with ease. Now you have my interest Saturday night in the Rose Bowl.
They go to Pasadena, Greg, as a 2.5-point favorite. That's the one thing I got wrong.
Crazy.
I said, I'm hoping that they were not going to be the favorite, but I'm taking them anyway. And I'll tell you who else I'm going to take is Purdue and the points against Notre Dame, who lost to Northern Illinois, a gigantic upset. And this is the second top 10 team to go belly up already in 2 weeks of college football.
I will tell you this again. I am very intrigued by the Indiana UCLA game, and I'm also intrigued, and I think this will be the case more so with UCLA than USC. But I think there'll be something to it as well. Again, you'll hear about this all week. Well, it's the first time the Hoosiers have been to the Rose Bowl since playing in the actual Rose Bowl. I happen to catch this from Twitter from I ought to assume as an LA Times reporter that the biggest traveling contingents of the year for like 3 different Big Ten schools are the ones that are going out to the Rose Bowl and are playing at UCLA. I think Minnesota has sold something like 10,000 tickets for their game in the Rose Bowl. And so I'm very curious to see how much cream and crimson will be at the Rose Bowl with Fish, John Herrick, Buck Soar, et cetera, out there for Saturday's game.
Absolutely. I remember when they were in the Outback Bowl, and I saw so much red. I was shocked. I'm like, oh my God, this hotel's full. Yada, yada. They've done it. Then we get to the stadium, and same thing. I'm like, wow, look at all this red. Then I'm inside the stadium, and I'm like, oh, 80% orange, Tennessee orange. And I'm like, okay, maybe I was a little premature on that. But yes, I agree with you. Who doesn't want to go to LA, brother?
I'm with you on that.
Taking you with us. Well, brother, I appreciate you as always. I wish I should have brought up Friday night. I know there's a lot to talk about on the high school side of things. What's up next for you?
So for me, Friday night will be Warren Central and Lawrence Central. Warren is 3-0. They've not given up a point so far this year. They are one of the better teams in 6A. Saturday night, Indy 11 Soccer as they host El Paso. Sunday afternoon, Colts football on the radio. So I am into my normal fall routine of football, and football, two different types of football, and one being amateur, two being professional on a given weekend basis.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Greg Rakestraw from the ISC Sports Mix Network. Make sure you're giving him a follow and staying up with all that he's got going, because it's a lot, as well as the Colts and everything else. Greg, thank you so much, brother.
You got it, buddy.
We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios with Don Fischer. We'll bring you the hard truth from this past weekend's game right after this break.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Ravesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
Welcome back on this Monday here at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios, and Don Fischer joins us to deliver the hard truth over the weekend, and it was very good. Don, as Indiana opens their season with a gigantic win over a Western, or not opens their season, the second week two rather, over Western Illinois, and a game that we all expected to be a blowout. But I don't think that anybody, including myself, expected 77 points and 700 yards, both program records. And and I'll say this every day, that for anybody that says, yeah, that it was against one of the worst teams, it was. But guess what? I promise you, in 123 years, Indiana has played some horrible teams and not been able to accomplish this. So the fact that they did it, I don't think you take that away. I'm not saying that they'll do this against UCLA or a team like that. They don't have to, but they did it last week, and they did it by not making mistakes.
Well, you're right. And they did it with 78 players on the football field too, which is amazing in itself, to have that kind of consistency throughout a ball game. I did not play, and if I would have played, I'd have gotten killed. But there's no question. No, this was a very impressive performance. And from Curt Cignetti's standpoint, this was what the culture has got to be. He believes that your football team comes out there and they play hard and tough all the way through a ball game. And there's no question every player in this ball club that got on the field did that. They were playing hard and tough and aggressive, and they were able to put 77 on the scoreboard. Defense was terrific in this ball game. I think they had 6 sacks and 10 tackles for loss, that kind of thing. It was 8 tackles for loss, my apology, but just a total effort by the ball club to do the things that he wanted to see done, without sloppiness, without complacency. Those are the kinds of things he fights against every single day, and he accomplished what I think was a tremendous football game for Indiana.
Absolutely. And you've got to see what I liked about it, as far as analyzing it, was you just mentioned the number of players, but individually on offense, the running backs, the number of running backs that gave positive yardage, positive play. And it wasn't just the running backs, it was everybody got involved. And even when you get down to Taven Jackson coming in at quarterback, he looked good. He didn't make mistakes. And when you're down to your second and then third units would say Alberto Mendoza. That's the only way I can say his name. But again, no mistakes. The fact that you can go that far down and not really give up much as far as successful production, that's impressive to me.
No, there's no question. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, Cignetti basically is trying to build a culture at Indiana that when you're called upon to go in a football game, you give everything that you have and you don't make mistakes. You do the things you're asked to do. And there's no sloppiness or no complacency. It's pretty simple what he's trying to get accomplished. It just hasn't been done in a long time at Indiana. And without question, Indiana performed exactly as they were expected to perform from a coaching staff perspective. And to get that many guys in the ball game, that's just a bonus in itself, because to have 78 different players come out there in the football field and perform, that's saying something special about the culture that you've already started to build. And it's not there yet. It's not there totally, although there is an expectation from this coaching staff and from the head coach about what to expect in each player, as each player is called upon to go in a ball game. And these kids have seemed to buy into it. And we obviously haven't seen Indiana against a top flight football program yet, but they're about to, because they're going to have UCLA coming up this Saturday evening, at least from an Indiana perspective evening. And it's going to be very interesting to see how Indiana handles that, because you want to see this same kind of effort, the same kind of energy and type of play that we've seen in these first 2 ball games in this matchup with the Bruins of UCLA.
Absolutely. And a big difference also is you look at from week 1 to week 2, Indiana offensively had 8 penalties last week, 8 offensive penalties out of the 9. This week, there were 2 penalties against the team and 0 on the offense. One was kicking the ball out of bounds, and the other was a defensive penalty. So to go from 8 penalties to 0 on offense, I don't care who you're playing. to not jump off sides and not have an illegal formation. That has nothing to do with whom you're playing. So they quickly got that eradicated, which that will be huge next week. UCLA doesn't, this is their week 2. They haven't had a week 2 yet. So that's, to me, that's a distinct advantage for Indiana.
Well, I think so too. I think you always want to play. You don't want to have a bye after your first ball game, whether it's a win or a loss, whatever the case may be. You want to get going. You want players to have that opportunity to immediately, if it was a loss that you dealt with in your first ball game, you want to get back in the win column. If it was a win in the first ball game, you get an opportunity to take a look at what you did wrong, right, and so on, from the standpoint of the second week of the season. But now it's week 3 for Indiana. It is week 2 for UCLA. And I do think Indiana has the advantage now of having 2 games under their belt and an opportunity to fix some things where UCLA hasn't had that opportunity other than to play that first ball game and find out a little bit about themselves.
Yeah, not only that, they go to Pasadena, Don, as a 2.5-point favorite. I will guarantee you, no matter, forget UCLA, no one before the season started would have thought Indiana goes there as a favorite. I've been confident about this football team all from the get-go. I still didn't think they'd go there as a favorite just because it was early and it's out west. They have travel. I'm like, okay, though I thought that they would probably be a 2.5-point underdog, to be honest with you, but they're not. Vegas is starting to say, okay, maybe this is there's no points in the AP top 25 for Indiana yet, but I look at Vegas. Vegas pays attention to things. And that tells me a lot when they're putting Indiana as a 2.5-point favorite.
Are we talking about Las Vegas and betting now? What are we talking about that?
I don't mean making the bet. I mean using that as a gauge. I mean, because those guys put it there, and I'm just surprised to see them have that confidence in this team this soon.
Well, anytime you've won 2 ball games and the other team has won 1 and they struggle to have a win in that first ball game against Hawaii, doesn't shock me that Indiana might go in this ball game as a favorite, even though Indiana's reputation as a football school and those kinds of things. But people are recognizing Curt Cignetti and his programs and his success. That's also a factor in their thinking processes now, which, we've never really had that in the past. I'm not saying we haven't had it in the past, because Bill Mallory obviously had a terrific program when he was the head coach at Indiana, but we haven't had any consistency in winning. And that's been the big issue for a long time at IU. But from my perspective, right now, this is a football team that's, they played really well in their first 2 ball games against lesser competition. This is going to be an opportunity for this ball club to find out more about themselves. And they're going to have to do it on the road in a situation where 4.5-hour flight or whatever it's going to be to get out there is going to factor into how they play on Saturday. And there's no doubt that playing at the Rose Bowl may have some import to guys' thinking processes. But here's my thing about this football team. Cignetti knows exactly what he wants and how to handle what he wants with his players. And he talked about last week, I guess, in the post-game press conference on Saturday. Their Tuesday practice the week prior to the Western Illinois game was not good. And he was upset about it. And he let them know that he was upset about it. And they come out and they played 60 minutes of football on Saturday that was impressive, to say the least, whether it's against Western Illinois or whoever it might be against, little House of the Prairie. It doesn't matter. This is a football team right now that's starting to take a look at what their head coach asked them to do, and they're buying in. And that, to me, is the most important thing about what we've seen over these first 2 ball games of the season. You've had a chance to see them kind of wane a little bit in the second half against Florida International, and then you get a full 60-minute ball game from your ball club in the second outing of the season. And again, I don't care who it's against. The way these kids played, that was impressive to me.
Absolutely. I mean, Curt Cignetti always says play to the standard. And if you want to get an understanding of what that means when you're up 42-0 in the first half and you give up your first, second, and third first down, you call a timeout with less than a minute to go in the half. That is lit play. He does not seem to let a minute, an opportunity go by for a teaching moment. And that's what that was. That was like, hey, I don't care that we're up 42-0. I don't care that there's a minute left in the half. You play to this standard that he is setting. Exactly.
And he is building that culture at Indiana. I think it's something that we just haven't seen for a long time. And I'm excited about it. I think our fan base should get excited about it. And I think this matchup with UCLA is just another test of what he's trying to do with this football team, because traveling away from home for the first time, dealing with a long trip in regard to that, how you're going to handle those kinds of things. This guy's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I'm talking about Cignetti now. And I buy into virtually anything the guy says, because he's proven it to me, having watched his practices so many times in the spring and here in the fall, and now what we're seeing on the football field as the regular season's underway.
Absolutely. And Don, I know I'll see you in a little while as we'll head out to the Monday presser, and we'll talk about what happened this weekend and what's coming up this weekend in Los Angeles.
Yep. And we've got Inside IU football with the coach on Thursday night this week, 7:05. And Kurt will be on tap for the entire show this week, since the first show that we had with him, well, I actually did last week's show as well, but obviously last week's was on pre-recorded because of the lack of, we played a Friday night ball game, and there was a practice day that got wasted there in regard to what he was looking for. So at any rate, it'll be our first full show with Kurt Cignetti this Thursday night at Hoosier Hanks.
I won't be there, brother. I will be in Los Angeles.
Oh, you're taking off early, huh? You're taking off early.
Thursday. Go on Thursday, man. I got to make sure you get there. You never know.
I understand. You got to scope it out. We'll see you.
Right. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got lots more coming up, and we're back with it right after this break.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Ravesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday after week 2 of the college football season, week 1 of the NFL, week 3 of high school. Don't forget the Ugly Grouper. Bringing you this segment located on beautiful Anna Maria Island, Florida. If you're already in the area or will be, the Ugly Grouper is much more than just unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. They've got all your favorite cocktails, craft beers, and live music every day. Check them out on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Hey, man, this is going to be a fun week. At the end of it, heading to Pasadena, California, as Indiana will take on UCLA in the Rose Bowl. And they're a favorite. How many of you would have thought that Indiana was going to be a favorite going into UCLA? I didn't. So I can promise you that. That's a little surprising for me. And that's fine, though. I'm not a huge bettor, but I have made a bet. But I'll tell you who I'm going to bet on is Purdue is currently getting 11.5 points against Notre Dame. Now, at the beginning of the season, you would have said, oh, well, of course. Now, how about you? I and this is not, and I told you so, because I'm sure I'm not the only one, but we've seen 2 top 10 teams now. One is out of the top 25 total in Florida State, and Notre Dame tumbles 13 spots because they were ranked in the top 10 because, oh yeah, there is no reason, because it said Notre Dame on their chest. That's why. And in this week's AP Top 25, I think it's a new record. The SEC has 6 of the top 7 teams. Now, it's not that the SEC does not have great teams. They do. But does that mean they're the 6 of the 7 best teams? No. Why should they be right this week? They haven't been right yet. You got to see teams play, man. So that's why I say that. But Indiana goes, and I know Don, I wasn't talking about betting per se with Don when I brought up the spread. It's the perception. Las Vegas, they know what the hell they're doing. And so, and of course, they want to put a line to where both sides will bet. You know, that -2.5, that's gonna piss off UCLA fans. They're like, oh my, are you kidding me? And but I think that Indiana should be the favorite. They perform better. They played 2 games to UCLA's 1, but I think that Las Vegas sees that this is not, and I've said this is not your brothers, it's not your grandpas, it's not your fathers, it's not even your big brothers' Indiana football program. I've said that from the beginning because that is the truth. Does that mean they're going to win the Big Ten? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just talking. Everybody thinks that it's impossible. Well, Kansas has done it, although I think they got beat this weekend. They got upset. But I'm enjoying the heck out of the fact that we're talking about that in this regard. I told you it was going to be a fun season, but I also think Purdue, they had a week off, and I wish that they hadn't, because that's I mean, as far as if you're going to bet that, I would rather they played another game. But Notre Dame played in Notre Dame and got their ass beat by Northern Illinois in South Bend. They pay Northern Illinois $1.2 or $1.4 million. So Northern Illinois gets that. They get the notoriety of playing Notre Dame in South Bend. Then they get the notoriety of beating Notre Dame in South Bend. So they've got that going for them, which is nice. Now, this week's top 25, Indiana gets 0 points. I noticed that Washington got some points. Why? That this is not last year's Washington team. That's neither here nor there, but it just shows the top 25 is the media from across the country, most of which don't see half of the teams they're voting on. And then how much of the fact of name has gone into this? I've talked about this with Florida State. I'm like, why are they ranked? I never understood why. The last we saw them from the end of last season, they were getting their holy crap kicked out of them. But yet they're a top 10 team. Notre Dame, top 10 team. Why? No idea. They're not. I mean, they were a huge favorite. Purdue looked good in the only game they've had. They put 40 points on the board, and I hope they win that game. I'm going to bet them in a parlay. Why not? Why not? I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. Whatever else was, how about Penn State taking on Bowling Green this weekend? It didn't dawn on me till I was watching the game. That's where Connor Bazelak is. Indiana's former quarterback, who did not get the starting job at the beginning of the year, as I said that he should. But 6 games in, when Indiana changed offensive coordinators, they changed quarterbacks to the guy that they should have gone to last season. Well, I got news for you. The halftime discussion between James Franklin and Tom Allen was probably not very courteous, as Penn State gave up 300 first half yards to the Huskies, baby. 200 through the air, 100 on the ground, and they were losing at the half, and they win by a touchdown over Northern Illinois and Connor Bazelak. But college football, we've seen multiple upsets already. I'm loving it, and I think this has to do with the transfer portal, people. Whether they're going in or coming out, other teams are getting players. It's becoming the Big Ten. I said this at the beginning of the year, is going to be a league that is just in the middle. Oh my gosh. Nebraska, a gigantic, they beat the bejesus out of Colorado. Was it Shiloh Sanders, broken arm? Shedeur Sanders knocked out of the game, I think, at one point. They had somebody else get hurt. Nebraska, buddy, when that game comes around, that's going to be a fist fight. That in that game, just from watching Nebraska early, my concerns will be with Indiana's front, offensive and defensive fronts lines. I mean, Nebraska is looking like Nebraska of old in that category, and that true freshman quarterback, forget about it. True freshman, he does not look like a true freshman. He looks like a seasoned sophomore at best. He's got several more games before they'll come to Bloomington. But UCLA is up next. That's what we have to concern ourselves with as far as the conversation goes with Indiana. Purdue takes on Notre Dame this week. That is going to be fun. So looking forward to that as well. Let's see. What else happened this weekend that was attention-getting besides the new AP poll, which is, like I said, 6 out of 7 teams Washington plays a game that's usually at the end of the season now. They're playing Washington State in the Apple Cup this week, which that's a big-time rivalry game. But I think Washington is favored by a couple of points, and I'm surprised. Washington State has put a bunch of points on the board already this year. So they got that going for them, which is nice. But Indiana scores 77 points. They break a record that is 123 years old. I want you to think about that. You've had Kevin Wilson at Indiana, who was just an offensive-minded guy. And they played at least a couple of teams like this. Nothing close to that. The last time Indiana scored 70 was against Indiana State. It wasn't that long ago, honestly, which is surprising. But the 700 yards also huge. It came from all different sources. Now, one thing I'm curious about is Alberto Mendoza. Is he the number 3 quarterback? Or is Tyler Cherry dinged? Now that's a surprise to me. Not that I know enough about Alberto. I just assumed because he's an incoming freshman that he would be number 4, but he got playing time, and Tyler Cherry did not. Curious and I'll try to find that out today as the weekly presser happens. As soon as we are finished with the show, I'll head out there and Kurt Signetti will give his weekly presser. Maybe after Penix beat Penn State, was IU a road favorite the COVID season? I'm not sure. They're talking about something and I missed the beginning on. When was the last time IU was favored on the road? There's a great question. Yeah, it would have to be, if it would happened, it would have to have been in the COVID season when they were playing very, very well. And they were a very, very good team, as a matter of fact. Some stats from Indiana in this past game. 1, 2, 3. Well, that's the team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys rushing the ball. Indiana averaged basically 7 yards a carry as a team. You had Justice Ellison with 9 carries, averages 13 yards. He goes over 100. Martin averaged 7 yards a carry on 8 attempts. Tyson Lawton, only six carries, but he averaged 7 yards a pop. Elijah Green, 5 carries, 6 yards a carry. Kalen Black, 5 carries, 6 yards a carry. Taven Jackson, 2 carries, 9.5 yards a carry. Weems, 4 carries, 4.8. Rourke averaged 4.3 yards on his 3 carries. Pretty nice. You had 2 different receivers that went over 130 yards receiving, with Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr. both hitting 137 for Surratt, 131 for Omar Cooper. A lot of yards after the catch. Yakety yak, don't talk back. Yards after catch, 73 for Surratt, 48 for Omar Cooper, 22 for Miles Price. I mean, those are great numbers. I know that this was against an inferior team. I get it. But my point is, this was not a couple of guys that were dominating. They were involving everyone in the offense. Like I said, you've got 11 different guys carrying the ball. You're spreading experience around, and that's only going to benefit you every game going forward, and especially up next, which is UCLA. Michael's waiting for Saturday. I missed it. Where did it go? the season that they changed the rules. Oh, he's talking about back in the COVID year. Yeah, Michael Purdue fan is ready for Saturday. He should be. Purdue might not win Saturday, but he will say that though Notre Dame is ripe for the picking and they beat Purdue by, I'm not sure. But Notre Dame is ripe for the picking. They just lost at home, for gosh sakes. And Purdue, they're in their second year under Ryan Walters. So, upset? Question mark? Notre Dame, they're giving Notre Dame 11.5 points. I guess they're thinking that Notre Dame is going to be that pissed off that they're going to come back and do that. Well, not so fast, my friend. I'm just not sure of that. I'm not sure that Notre Dame is the team this year, at least not right now. So it's going to be interesting to find out how that one goes. Tonight, we've got more Monday Night Football as the return of Aaron Rodgers. The Jets are at San Francisco. Man, last year, the last time we saw Aaron Rodgers open up the season, he blew his Achilles out. That was nothing fun. So hopefully that goes better than it did for him last year. And let's see. I want to make sure we're all right on time. We've got a couple of minutes before we hit the break. I want to hear what Coach Signetti had to say after the game.
Okay, it was a good night because I was pleased that our team played with an edge and an attitude and at a high standard, the ones I'm talking about. Didn't play down, to the competition. And that we emptied the bench pretty much and got a lot of people on the field. And I was happy for them, too, because we had a lot of young people make plays, created some turnovers defensively. And so it was a good night.
Matt, Zach, what you ask about Curtis Schwartz? You mentioned last week you thought he played pretty well, but there's some things he missed. Tonight, he seemed really sharp, hit some big plays. Just your thoughts on how he did.
Yeah, that's what I saw, too. And I hate to make an evaluation of anybody until I watch the tape the next day. But that's what it appeared to me also, yeah.
Zach, on your left in this. You talked about playing with an edge last week. You talked about that 21-0 lead, then maybe just not playing with the lead the way you wanted to. I recognize the competition being whatever it is. Just how important was it in your mind for the offense in particular to just keep going out there and stacking good drive after good drive? I think he scored on like 9 straight.
No, I think it was equally important for the defense to stop them because it's offense, defense, special teams. About 40% of your plays are on offense, 40% on defense, and 20% on special teams. And you need all 3 phases to do really well. And so the defense was doing their job, too. The only thing I wasn't pleased was the end of the half. We let them, kick a field goal. But it was good. There were plays out there, and we threw and caught the ball well and protected well. And that's, our goal. We wanted to clean those penalties up and protect the quarterback better than we did last week. And I thought the second half, we really will to play, put them in the best positions. Me and the staff try and get them to play as well as they can on game.
Play on game day. There we go. Kurt Signetti comments after the game this past weekend. Lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We'll be back with Dustin Dopirak right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indiehomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indiehomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, and joined now by our good friend Dustin Dopirak. How was your weekend, sir?
Good, Jim. How about yours?
You know what? I haven't talked about this yet, but it was fantastic because Indiana had a Friday night game, which I was whining about from the standpoint of what it does to, high school. But I got to be honest with you. I loved it. It was a long day Friday. And of course, but Saturday, I watched football all day. I woke up and started watching Game Day, and that noon, that translated to 4 games at the same time on my multi-view, which translated to 4 more at 3:30 on multi-view, which it kept going like that. I'm like, I bet I saw 30 different teams play on Saturday, which that will not happen the rest of the season.
No.
So I loved it, and I liked it so much I did it again on Sunday.
Nice.
But it was great to get to watch that many teams, and I know that your focus is elsewhere, but man, the Big Ten, while this week in the AP top 25, the SEC has 6 of the top 7 teams, doesn't mean a ton to me because from the very beginning of this year, I'm like, I had my doubts about Florida State, about Notre Dame, and about Michigan. And both are starting to show why they're not the teams they were. Yeah, and they're not the teams they were last year. And so why they had such high. I understand Michigan. You're the defending national champion. Okay, I get it. But Notre Dame or Florida State, last time we saw them, they get the crap kicked out of them, and they come back as a top 10 team until they're not. They lose 2 straight, but.
Right. Well, I mean, part of it was also Florida State. Like the reason they didn't win is they lost their quarterback, at the end of the year last year. So they go out and get.
But to get beat that badly I mean,
sure.
If you're that good, your number 2 ought to be doable. He should be I'm not saying he should be able to lead you to a win, but
they were down to their third. They were down to their third, though, right? Like their second guy got hurt.
You might be right.
I think. I could be wrong. It feels very long ago now. Toward the end of that season, basically just going through all the narratives. But I'm pretty sure at the end of that, they were down to their third quarterback. And so when you're down to your third quarterback, I mean that's tough. But again, they were undefeated, and right before who they beat Louisville in the ACC title game before they get to that, and they get smashed by Georgia. And Georgia is spectacular. Georgia's Georgia, and you could sort of tell that Florida State just wasn't invested. Obviously, again, if they have Jordan Travis, it's still a different football game. But yeah, I mean, obviously. And you go out, obviously they lost some players because when you're that good, you lose them. But you bring in DJU, and I think everybody was sort of thinking, well, all right, this is going to work for him this time. And then it obviously very much hasn't. I mean, the Irish, the thing about the Irish too, Notre Dame is, you go out and beat A&M in week 1. So everyone's like, oh, well, everything's fine. I mean, they must be okay. There's no earthly reason they're going to lose to Northern Illinois. Not only that, you look down their schedule and you're like, okay, well, it's, there's nothing but winnable games on here. And so, after you start the way that they started, you think, okay, this is a formidable team. This is a team that belongs in the top 10. It should be a playoff team and all that. And so then you go out and get beat by Northern Illinois, and that's just not supposed to happen.
No, it's not. And the Big Ten is going into the season. I thought that there's going to be a couple teams at the top that we thought were Ohio State and Oregon. Actually, to me, it's Ohio State and USC are the two at the top. Then there's a separation. And after that, I think that there is going to be this unbelievable midsection of the Big Ten. That includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 teams right now. I'm trying to slowly compile my own Big Ten Power Index, and that's a week-to-week thing. But of course, that's like compiling a top 25 now because it's almost that damn many teams in there with 18. But right now, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've only got 9. I'm halfway with 9 teams there, and the other ones are. Purdue is going to have a big time chance this weekend to show that, hey, we are in that middle section too. They've had one game so far before their bye. They put a lot of points up, but they're getting to take on a Notre Dame team that I don't have a lot of confidence in. I didn't have confidence in to begin with. I didn't see them losing to Northern Illinois at home. I'll tell you that. But Purdue is I forget the number right now, 11.5-point underdog at home. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'll take that right now.
Yeah, you'll see. I mean, there's things I like about the Notre Dame team. I just was not very impressed by Riley Leonard, even in that A&M win. I didn't watch the Northern Illinois game on Saturday. We were bopping around doing some other stuff, but just saw the score and we're like, are you serious? Like, how did that happen? But they still have the running game and they still have the defense. I mean, I think that's the thing that you still look at and say, well, like that's what you got to beat. That's the difficult part. I mean, Xavier Watts is one of the best players in the country. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The safety, he's just phenomenal. He's an NFL player. There's no doubt. And that secondary was phenomenal against A&M. So you're going to have a hard time getting your points on them, for as much as I don't think that offense is very good. And just, again, like, I don't think Riley Leonard is even Sam Hartman, let alone, better quarterbacks they've had in the past. So that's what makes them vulnerable. Obviously, I mean, they didn't get a lot of points on the board on Saturday, but I don't think they're going to give up a lot either. So, I mean, I think if Purdue really has to be pretty strong defensively to be able to keep it there, because, I mean, they're going to have a hard time scoring. They're not going to score nearly what they did against Indiana State. So I think that's the issue there. But, certainly to your point, I mean, 11.5, they might have a chance of pulling that off. It's certainly Notre Dame's going to be shook after losing to Northern Illinois. I mean, it's a tough deal when you go from everybody saying, well, shoot, they're going to cruise the playoff because they got nobody to play after this, to you lose that next game and all of a sudden you're, your season might be over from a playoff perspective, because when you have that loss is going to hang there. Even if they go 11-1, you're going to be like, well, that one is Northern Illinois. Like, how are you going to let a team that got beat by Northern Illinois get in? So it's like, okay, what's Notre Dame's psyche going to be? How are they going to handle the rest of this? So like, you really don't know what kind of team, you're dealing with. Basically on South, like if you're Purdue, you don't know if they're going to be angry and you're going to have a hard time dealing with that, or you don't know if they're going to be defeated. So you've got a chance there, but that still is, for as much as, again, I don't really trust their offense. I do trust their defense.
I hate to bring up what could be a slightly sore subject. Your Penn State Nittany Lions
did some messing around. I'm not that sore, man. I'm good.
Ironically played Bowling Green, whose quarterback is Connor Bazelak. And Bowling Green put 300 yards of offense up against Tom Allen's defense in the first half and had the lead at the break, shocking a lot of people.
Yeah, I think Tom decided he owed Connor one. I'm not sure about that. There was
he was wrong. He should have said, okay, I was wrong about not starting you at the beginning of the year last season. And you would have thought that he learned a lesson, but I think he had to learn a lesson twice.
Did he not start him? When did he get?
Not at the beginning of the season. The job went to Taven Jackson, and I at the time I said that's the quarter. I had talked to a bunch of players and whatnot before the season started, and everything, the consensus I had that was Connor Bazelak was the guy that was ready to start, and I think Taven got the job, but then they switched.
The wrong guy, my man. There have been that many quarterbacks lately. Connor.
Oh well, you're probably right. Who started last year then? Who was the guy besides Taven?
Sorsby.
Oh, Brendan Sorsby.
Yeah.
Connor Bazelak was 2 years before, 2 seasons
before, and he did start immediately. It was between him and Tuttle. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's been a couple of years. We're talking about
there's too many quarterbacks. And then you bring up Tuttle. I'm like, oh yeah, there's Tuttle. He's in Michigan.
Yeah. And there was Dexter Williams. I mean, we're talking about a lot of human beings playing.
You're making my brain hurt, man.
Yeah. No, I know. So it's very easy.
But Penn State, I love it. I love college football right now because there is a ton of parity, man. It is. Has this come about because of the transfer portal?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Because there are so many teams that are like, oh, wow. And it's every week now. And I'm loving it. I'm here for it. It's awesome to me.
It's definitely, I mean, it is one of those things that it makes, like, on one hand, it makes the offseason almost unfollowable. And you're just like, okay, who is even on these teams anymore? But when you actually see the product on the field, it just allows teams to change so much faster, turn over, and it just allows people to sort of fill whatever holes they have. Basically, like it's just much easier to address when you have problems. If you're, if you're not a very good team and your coach gets fired, like obviously in Indiana's case, like Kevin Wilson didn't have this option. I see some similarities in Wilson and Cignetti just for, just the brashness and whatnot, maybe not across the board, but, Wilson didn't get to try to bring anybody he could from Oklahoma, to Indiana at the time. Obviously he wasn't head coach, so that makes a difference anyway, but all the same, Cignetti can say, okay, well, all right, any James Madison guy who wants to come with me, who thinks you can hang in the Big Ten, let's go, let's dance. And that's better than was left over after the Bill Lynch regime at that point. So it's just like it is just so much faster that you celebrate all these timelines. Now it's going to lead to guys are going to get fired faster. Because it's just like, okay, like there's not nearly as much reason to give you the full 4 years if everything is going sideways. If you can't put together a team in 4 years, it's like, okay, well, you got the portal. Like, I don't feel nearly as bad for you needing like a cycle of high school kids. But yeah, you have the opportunity to build these teams, and there's someone available. If you lose a quarterback, it's like, okay, well, there's somebody at the portal you can go get for him to be available. You don't have to go, get this high school guy or redshirt freshman or redshirt sophomore and put him in there and let him figure out how to play quarterback. You go get a guy that's won before, someplace, whether it's in the MAC or somewhere else. And that makes everybody, competitive. I mean, like, like you talk about Oregon with Dylan Gabriel's already played how many places, like it's already proven you can win. And, so, I mean, like all these teams have ways of sticking in there, and it makes everybody pretty competitive. So yeah, no, that's the biggest reason why. I mean, again, it makes for odd off seasons. It makes for not feeling like you fully understand who your team is. I mean, again, I covered Indiana 2 years ago, and there's just, what percent of this roster was part of the program 2 years ago, like
0.05 maybe. There's
legitimately 20% of this team was probably on the roster 2 years ago. You still got Umar Cooper, you still have Donovan McCauley, like there's Mike Kadick, there are guys, but Velas Jones, but like there's not a lot. Like it's just pretty remarkable. Like I was covering this team and knew pretty much the entire roster 2 seasons ago, and just 2 years on the faces, I'm like, man, who are these guys? But even really just from last year, you're just like, all right, like just an overwhelming, amount of this team is brand new. And, they were playing somewhere else last year. And so it is just pretty remarkable how much turnover is. And then when you can have that turnover, you can change a team dramatically in the course of an off season.
Right now, early, granted, but right now, the most improved team in the Big Ten to me clearly looks to be Nebraska. A big time win over Neon prime time on Saturday night. I mean, an emphatic win. Their defense looks tough, and that true freshman quarterback is steady. That dude is he looks like a seasoned sophomore, like I said. So they're going to get better and better. I think Nebraska might end up being definitely in the top 4 by the time things are over, if not in the top 3 of this conference right now. And that might be, besides Indiana's going to end up playing a Nebraska team, Washington team, a Michigan State team that goes to Maryland and shocks Maryland on the road, Ohio State, and a Purdue team that has an opportunity, a big opportunity this weekend with Notre Dame coming to town.
Yeah. No, I mean, to your point, like this wide open middle. I mean, just looking at the standings and these guys already, you're just like, okay, what is this really going to look like? I mean, Wisconsin gets Bama this weekend. What's that going to look like? Are they going to get? I mean, I still think they get popped in the mouth, but you never know. I
think Alabama goes up there and covers the spread, which is like 15
I think they handle them pretty good. I mean, obviously, like you mentioned Washington, we don't have any idea how good they are yet. They've just beaten Weber State and Eastern Michigan, but Will Rogers has been really good over there so far. We just don't know. I mean, like obviously that's college football week 1 or 2. Some teams schedule heavy, some teams don't. Illinois had a real nice win against Kansas. I mean, they don't play Indiana, but that's another team.
That was a big time win to me.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's weird to say that about Kansas. It's weird to have like a little bit of a field storming after you beat Kansas. But it happened, and it was at least, pretty justified. Kansas is a nice team. Illinois, that's a pretty significant win for them. So, I mean, we really don't know. I mean, it's going to be, this is going to be really strange. This is going to be really awkward when we get into November. We're going to be like, man, like it is really weird to have an 18-team league that doesn't have divisions. How is this thing going to shake out? How is this going to make any sense? And it kind of doesn't at the end of the day, because you can't come anywhere near close. I mean, you play half the league. You play half the league. That's exactly, you play 9 Big Ten games, and that is half the league. So you don't see the other half, it's going to be an awkward deal. It's always going to be an awkward deal going forward, as long as this conference is as big as it is. And so, it's going to be strange to look at and say, okay, who's there, who belongs, who is benefiting by having what ends up being an easy schedule, but you don't know what an easy schedule is going to be when the season starts. I think again, like as you mentioned, like Indiana's schedule already looks significantly harder than it did, when the season started. I mean, it's not, there are definitely nastier, but to your point, you throw Nebraska in there and they're trouble. And you've got maybe Washington's better than you think. Maybe, maybe Northwestern's better than you think. Maryland might not be that great. Maybe Michigan State's better than you think. Maybe Michigan's worse than you think, but they're still Michigan. We'll see what that actually turns out to be.
Absolutely. Colorado, I think that the Colorado primetime experiment is one that will not end well.
Not heading in a good direction, is it?
No, but I just don't. When you look at them and you watch the games, you see the sidelines and you can see how they are nothing like any other program. They're doing things kind of their own way, but yet when it comes to product on the field, what's he going to do when he doesn't have Shiloh Sanders at quarterback? What's he going to do when he doesn't have Hunter and his other son who broke his arm this past week on the defensive side? I just don't see that experiment working out, and I don't see it lasting long, to be honest with you. I think that 3 years may be the max because it's, like you just said, it's not going in the right direction. I'm not seeing improvement in them. They had that opening game wow moment last year, but then there was, as Diana Taurasi would say, reality is coming, and it did.
Right.
And I think reality is coming yet again for this Colorado team.
Yeah, it's heading that direction. I mean, I think he obviously sort of caught, I don't want to say caught lightning in a bottle. I mean, that's a little bit, much to put it, but it's just like, for them, Colorado needed anything. So if you're Colorado, it was worth taking a chance, basically. I mean, they were a pretty, going nowhere program. So it's just like, okay, what reason do you have not to try it if you're Colorado? I mean, how many years are we talking about since? And you remember the 90s, Colorado was legit really good top 5, top 10 program every year. Cordell Stewart era, Bill McCaffrey, that was one of the top programs in the country. Them in Nebraska used to be one of those end of the season games every year that told you who's going to be, in the national championship picture. And obviously we're talking about a good 20, 25 years since Colorado has been more than a blip. I mean, there've been maybe a handful of seasons where you could say Colorado was any good in that period. And so if you're Colorado, I mean, you feel like you've got enough there that somebody, somebody just needs to spark it. And I think, they got that. Obviously they got back on the map. But they made a lot of flash last season, got a lot of headlines, and, didn't end up being that great. And so you're already back in that position again. I mean, you have a handful, obviously a couple special players and Sanders, a quarterback, and Hunter is amazing. Let's not downplay that at all. Travis Hunter is an incredible football player. But you got to put together a whole program. And when you're already in the case, I mean, when you're picking fights with the, Denver Post columnist, in year 2, that's not a good look.
You got better. You should have better things to do, like focusing on the team.
You should. Yeah. I mean, that's not a good place if you're that thin-skinned already out of the gate. I mean, if you're Dion, you have to act like you're above that, even if I don't know, it seems like the guy's been pretty harsh, but it's just all right, well, that's media, man. And also you're Deion Sanders. You're not every other, up and coming coach who's, in his first Power 4 job and was at a MAC school last year. No, you're Deion Sanders, of course you're going to get more scrutiny, and some people are going to think that what you're doing is not right. And so you just kind of got to roll with that. But it's just okay, if you're already going to go all the way down that track, that's just not a good start. And so he just doesn't have, it's not heading in a good direction. I mean, I'm not going to say it's stone cold will not, but they last year wasn't as impressive as make it out to be. And so, this year to get popped in the mouth by Nebraska, again, this isn't old days Nebraska. That might be a pretty good team, but it's not supposed to, you're not supposed to do that. And so, that was one of the games that got them started last year. Last year they beat them 36-14. This year they get the other end of that. And they finished, lost 8 of their last 9 last year. Things are not in a good place. Now, that doesn't mean it's not fixable. But it's not a good start, and it could end very poorly if he doesn't pull the plane up.
Absolutely. And I mentioned Penn State a minute ago. Not a great start for Tom Allen, as last year Penn State had the number 1 defense in the country, I believe, and they give up those 300 first half yards to a Bowling Green team that made life hard on them. They ended up only winning by a score.
Yeah, no. I was more impressed week 1. I didn't really watch too much this weekend, but I did watch them against West Virginia. So I thought Allen did a really good job in that game, and he's got a good amount of talent. Obviously, he doesn't have to run the whole program. So I thought he had some good moments in game 1 against West Virginia. They were able to handle that one. I mean, I think there's a very similar kind of circumstances for Penn State as Notre Dame had, basically. I mean, they had their big game, on the road in week 1, and they laxed in week 2. And so I, as we mentioned earlier, I thought, Connor Bazelak played really well. And so, I think there's a significant just drop off there in terms of how Penn State played, but I think that might have something to do with gearing up for week 1 and not really being all the way there for week 2. That's kind of my initial thought.
We've got to take a break. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Our good friend Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star is with us. Appreciate you being along for the ride. This segment brought to you by Bubba's 33 here at the Hard Truth Studios. And we're back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday. Thank you so much for being with us. This segment brought to you by Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For those in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, reach out to Cheryl. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. And, of course, coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios, which I'm looking forward to heading over to the Hard Truth before I get out of here to go to Pasadena this week. Dustin, I am looking, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking forward to a couple of days in LA, although the one thing I hate about it is that time difference. It gets you, you may like it when you get there, but it will catch up to you twice as badly on the way back.
Oh yeah, no, it's rough for sure. It sometimes can take a couple days. I mean, I know whenever I've gone on, longer, West Coast road trips covering the Pacers, it's a beast. Yeah. Basically, like for 2 or 3 days after, you don't know what time it is. Your whole entire sleep schedule is off. It'll mess with you. And obviously, it's the longer you're there, is the more that it knocks you off your case, and you're just it is strange the entire time, especially just when you're working. Your sense of deadlines and what's due when and who's doing what is very odd. It's definitely very strange, and it's just I like my deadlines are like, we have weird deadlines now anyway, but I mean, I feel like my last kind of story has to be sort of written before dawn, and I have to remember that dawn is really 3 a.m. where I am. Like all those things kind of shake you up, and LA is a lot. That's kind of the other piece to it, is that if you're going back and forth and if you're going to Pasadena, wherever you're staying, I mean, I haven't been, but I know basically if you're spending any time on that freeway, it is different. It is not what you think of being traffic. LA is a different level, no matter what your previous priors are. Like LA traffic is at an entirely different level.
It's got to be the most trafficked area in the country, because New York is the biggest city in the country, but there's not a lot of traffic because
everybody's the subway and the cabs and everything. Yeah. No, I mean, like New York's got plenty, but it's like there are all those ways to get around. Otherwise, Chicago is similar, obviously, because you have the L. But DC is kind of the closest one, even though they have a really good metro.
Atlanta's probably getting close, man.
Yes. Yeah.
Has Atlanta surpassed Chicago as the third largest city in America?
Not yet.
I heard a number on Atlanta the other day. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like 7 million. I'm like, isn't Chicago like 5, 6 maybe?
I don't know. I think Chicago still has more people, but Atlanta's definitely getting bigger. The Sun Belt in general, obviously, is growing. But point of the matter, yeah, I mean, LA is a different beast when it comes to everything. But I mean, it's going to be warm. It's going to be nice, and the backdrop is just going to be something else. I mean, I think that is the Rose Bowl is probably the one on my list that I haven't been to, that I really wish I could see out of all the football stadiums. I mean, just having got to cover the Big Ten, got to cover the SEC. So between those two, I saw most of them, and I've been to Notre Dame a couple times, just, as a paying customer, obviously, because, from MJ's from South Bend, we've got to go to a couple games up there. But yeah, I mean, that one's one of the last ones on my list of places I really want to see. Just again, the backdrop is incredible. It's just, I mean, like in the same way, like Dodger Stadium, when you're in it, is unbelievable, because you're just surrounded by all the mountains and everything else. The Rose Bowl's got a similar look to it, and it's just gorgeous. So I'm kind of jealous of everybody that's going on this trip, but it's going to be really cool. It's going to be it's going to be nice to see everybody on the IUB get to go out there and take that in.
Absolutely. It's a unique stadium because it's very what do you call flat? I mean, it's
a bowl. It's a literal bowl. It's how they used to be built. Yeah. No, I mean that's why they call it all those old stadiums bowls, because you only have one level that just goes all the way up, and it's just one circle. There's not multiple decks. As far as for the fans is concerned, obviously there's the press box and all those kinds of things. But for the most, you're not talking about multiple concourses. They got built later in time. I mean, this is what. This is how they used to build college football stadiums, and but you somehow still managed to fit 100,000 in there. Obviously, it's a similar setup to Michigan. Similar concept more or less at least in terms of how it used to be before they added the renovation. Still pretty similar to that, but that instead of Ann Arbor, Michigan, you're in Southern California. It's just a different deal. But yeah, no, it's very basic, but still really classic. And, and again, you add on top of it, just the backdrop is incredible. I mean, I think, I don't know that you'll get the same kind of halftime switch over. I guess maybe you will. I mean, it'll be pretty close to that in terms of when the sun goes down. So, that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. How about this? Indiana goes to Pasadena as a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a great UCLA team. They weren't that great last year. I mean, they've definitely got a chance of going out and winning out there, and certainly considering their performances in these first two games, you're like, okay, well, they're all right. I'm trying to think who UCLA has even played. But they have, they have a very good chance of going out and winning that game. And, it's important. I mean, it's an important game for them to establish themselves, in the Big Ten and say that you can beat Big Ten teams, that it's not just a case of, oh, well, we're going to, just hammer Western Illinois and that it's got to, be able to really translate to playing a Big Ten team. But it's a big moment for them. But there's no reason why they shouldn't be favored in that game.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. And the Big Ten itself, I'm digging the addition of these four teams. I like, because that's where we're heading anyway. I mean, you've got Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC now, so it doesn't really matter. Those are going to be the two main conferences at some point, but they won't be the only ones. But it is fun to see these regular season games. Indiana UCLA is what would have been a bowl game, in the past. So we're going to get to see some great games this year. That's what I love about this midsection of the Big Ten. There are just going to be upsets. Indiana is going to lose a game that I didn't see coming, but they might win a game that I didn't see coming.
Sure.
And I could use that against or with a lot of other teams. That is what's going to make this Big Ten season, I think, spectacular.
Sure. No, it's going to be wild. I mean, it's still strange. It was very weird. We did a lot of bopping around with friends on Saturday, but I came back and stayed up to watch Oregon, Boise State, and then, watched, UCLA, Utah State. And you're like, these are Big Ten games. Like, it's bizarre. It's very strange. But it's just like, if it's going to be that way, if the Pac-12 was going to separate, I mean, obviously I think just out of things making sense, it's better for the Pac-12 to exist. But if the Pac-12 is not going to exist, the Big Ten did a good job of getting the programs that fit them culturally, even if obviously geographically none of this makes any sense. But you go get, Oregon and USC have been, pretty competitive. Obviously, Oregon has had some championship caliber teams, hasn't won one, but still, USC obviously has been one of the brand names of the Pac-12 for a long, long time. Certainly it's had periods where it's really owned college football. It's been 20 years since then, but still, like, they've had some good teams in the in-between. It makes for a lot of possibilities of things shaking up. It's weird to consider. Michigan USC used to be the Rose Bowl game, like that used to be the sort of brand name, or Ohio State, USC, one of the two. That was kind of the brand name concept of the Rose Bowl. If you, it's true East and West. Getting that game together in the Rose Bowl was, those were games that determined championships some year. And the idea that those teams are going to play, regular season football is wild to consider. But it's like, again, if that's on the table and you're the Big Ten, you have to go get it. And they did. So it definitely is going to make for some really, really thrilling football, throughout the season, basically. And like you said, because there's this big middle, and you have, I do expect Oregon and USC to be in, competition, in the top-ish tier. But everybody after that, UCLA, Washington is going to be sort of up in the air. You throw them in with the Nebraskas, the Illinois, the Indianas, Michigan, Rutgers, et cetera. You don't know who's going to shake out where. It makes for a lot of thrilling possibilities. Like you said, it's a lot of games that would usually be bowl games are going to be regular season games in October and November. It's going to be wild. It's still strange. I think it's still strange to look at this and see that there's just not a cohesive league holding together teams in the Pacific Coast. That there's some of those in the Pac-12. It just doesn't quite look right yet. But if that was going to be the case, if the Pac-12 was going to dissolve, the Big Ten went out and got the teams that best help its brand.
Any big surprises from over the weekend that you were? I know that, like I said, your focus is elsewhere a lot of times, but just as a fan that you saw this from this weekend.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, who did I watch? I didn't think Texas was going to blow out Michigan like it did. I expect that game to be a little bit tighter.
I did.
Yeah,
the fourth quarter, I bet like a $10 parlay that Texas won the first, second, third, and fourth quarters by like 1.5 points. That's all they had to do. They won every one of them except for the fourth quarter, in which they didn't score, and they allowed Michigan to score. And I'm like, come on, man, you're killing me. But Michigan's one of those teams that I had doubts about because they lost a lot in coaching and players. And so, and they have all that stuff swirling around. And speaking of Connor Stallions, he took a 60-0 loss as a fill-in head coach over the weekend, by the way.
That's fine.
Surprised that any school would let him come there. But anyway, Michigan they're a team that's, they're in the middle. They're not in that upper position of the Big Ten, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe not. I was a little bit surprised about that. I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, Boise State gave Oregon a game. And so there was a lot of talk about Oregon being a potential championship team. I mean, that I think makes you ask yourself some questions also as to how, high up they are, how much they belong. But that was still a fun game. That was fun to sit up and watch, that on Peacock at the end of the night. I'm trying to think of who else I made a point of seeing and who else I didn't. Georgia Tech getting beat now, I think you're like, okay, well, maybe just Florida State's just really that bad. I'm trying to think of who else was interesting. But yeah, I mean, like a lot of other stuff went kind of according to plan, but was just a little bit closer than you thought. Obviously, like we mentioned, Penn State, Bowling Green earlier. A bunch of those that were like, all right, well, what, somebody's messing around here. But we're still figuring out who really is good. I think at this point, we're really getting a sense of, all right, who's, we're still very much learning who belongs. South Florida giving Alabama a game obviously was interesting too. To drag that one out as long as they did before Alabama really turned it on in the last 5 minutes, was intriguing. So there was a lot of things that I kind of kept popping up and looking at and being like, okay, what's happening here? And a lot of things obviously ended up going according to plan, but still, there are a lot of teams that are vulnerable, but there are a lot, but a lot of teams are vulnerable because, to your point, a lot of teams are better because they've been able to refill talent quickly, rather than having to wait to do it through, your standard process of bringing in high school guys and letting them develop. People are bringing in players that fill holes really quickly. You lose a quarterback, you go get one that's already won a bunch of games. And so that's what a lot of these teams are doing. And that way that's kept everybody pretty competitive.
Absolutely. What's been on your agenda? Although Dylan is
very little. very little, housework.
I love it.
On my agenda.
Honeydew list.
Exactly. Getting a whole bunch of that stuff done. I got 3 weeks from today is media day. Or is it 2 weeks? No, it's 3 weeks. September 30th is media day. September 24th, or somewhere in that prior week, we're going to meet with, you're going to hear from, the front office. Basically, we usually, meet with at least one front office person and have kind of a press conference there. So that'll be kind of the week prior to kind of set up the season and everything. So there's not a lot of news happening. You're certainly seeing the guys come into town. You're starting to see guys show up. I think Pascal Siakam had some of the players in town. I don't even know where his house is. But he's got a gym, and I don't think it's here. But he had, I think, Jarris Walker, Andrew Nemhard, Johnny Furphy, one or two other players I can't remember right now, but had them down to his facility. Did some teaching. That showed up on Twitter last week. Siakam kind of showed a video of him showing some kind of post-up turnaround jumper moves to Jarris Walker. So you're starting to see the guys come together. I know Tyrese Halliburton was at the Colts game yesterday. He also went to the Fever game after that. I think Tyrese is working really hard to make South Street and Indy kind of feel like a high school. Basically feel like you've got a football game, you've got a men's program, a women's program, and the JV program. He shows up at Mad Ants games all the time. So he's trying to kind of build some camaraderie there, I think, between, all the professional, indie sports franchises. So you're starting to see guys get ready. McConnell signed his extension. I think it was not this past week, but the week prior. So it's sort of coming together. Obviously, they didn't make a lot of moves in terms of getting new players. Most of their offseason was based on the idea of really solidifying what they had, getting guys on for bigger extensions, making sure they're there for a while longer, and really saying, that this is their guys. This is their group that they intend to go win championships with, or at least attempt to. Like, this is the team that they feel like gives them their best shot at this point. So we'll see what that starts to look like. But, there's certainly some gathering string for some feature stories and whatnot. But yeah, still not a lot formal happening for another 2 weeks.
Looking forward to it, brother. I appreciate you as always.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a good one and a great rest of the week. Dustin Dopirak joining us from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all he has, considering the Pacers as they get ready to start the season here soon at the end of the month with Media Day. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Studios right after this.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Feed Radio. Here comes to you from the Hard Truth Studios on this Monday, and grateful to have you with us as we're bringing you the hard truth. As this weekend was a fun one, and enjoyed it immensely as I got to see a lot of games over this weekend and a lot of teams to watch as this season is starting to lay out. And I've been trying to, I'm going to come out with my Big Ten Power Index with 18 teams. Trust me, it's difficult, but right now, and I'll have this out at thehoosier.com, and make sure you go to thehoosier.com to stay up to beat on everything going on each and every day. That's where you can hear the incomplete Kurt Cignetti interviews, the player interviews. We'll be heading out to the presser today as soon as the show ends for this week's Indiana press conference with Coach Cignetti. But right now, my power index for the Big Ten from top to bottom, at the top is Ohio State, and at the bottom is UCLA. That's right now. That could change. Haven't seen enough of UCLA. We'll get a good indication of that this week. Number 2 in the Big Ten, I've got USC, which is not a big surprise, but I'll tell you what's probably going to surprise some people is my number 3 team. My number 3 team is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. That was a solid victory this weekend over Colorado, and a team that has a lot of individual talent on it. But Nebraska was just solid. They beat them in every way. And buddy, Nebraska is a team that is possibly going to work their way in to the top 3. While I have them 3rd on my list, I'm not sure they're a top 3 team yet, but there is definitely a line. I'm kind of torn between the top 3 and the top 2, to be honest with you. Ohio State, USC, Nebraska are my top 3 teams. Oregon falls after that, but there's a line. They have not sold me yet on how good they are. Wisconsin, yeah, not sure about them either. We'll find out this week as they get a visit from former Indiana offensive coordinator Kalen DeBoer and the Crimson Tide of Alabama. That is going to be I expect them to lose. That spread is 15.5, I think. I think Alabama covers because Alabama kind of needs some juice. But Wisconsin, let's see, I've got them at 4. Here's where I start. I don't know. This is the group of the middle teams that it's hard to separate. That includes Penn State. It includes Iowa, who lost to Iowa State over the weekend, leading up to the very end, but they could not produce the offense. They lose 20-19 and lose the Cy-Hawk Trophy. So maybe the offense is not quite as good as we think. Illinois, that's a huge win over Kansas, people. Huge win for Illinois. I didn't think that they were going to be very good this year, but hey, that's a solid win. I've got Indiana in this mix. I haven't even mentioned Michigan yet because that's where Michigan has fallen for me. They've fallen into this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I'm in like the 8th position. Illinois in 8th, Indiana, Michigan, Washington, Michigan State. Maybe they should be higher than Michigan. They go into Maryland and get an upset victory over a team that I thought was going to be in this mix. Maryland not looking good so far, or not looking that good so far. But again, I think the middle of this Big Ten is just going to be a freaking juggernaut. You're going to see some great football, fun football this year. And for all the talk about the crowd at Indiana's Memorial Stadium, once this week gets past, I expect Indiana to beat UCLA on the road. They have a game against Charlotte, which is a non-con game. I think the attendance will be higher, for one thing, because Indiana would be 3-0 at that time, number one. Number two, people are going to start catching on, and they're going to say, hey, I think I need to be a part of this. It might not be a sellout, but Maryland falls after that. Depending on what Maryland does up until that point, that should be a very, very highly attended game. And I think from there out, I think Indiana has at least 4 sellouts this year. There is no way they have ever had 4 sellouts in a season. Because once they get through their first 6 games, you've got a Nebraska team that will come in here that is a damn good team. And that's going to be a very, very tough win for Indiana to get. Their defense is solid, and they have a good offense. Washington is going to be a solid team, but I think you get a full crowd for that. Then you have Michigan coming in. Of course, that game's going to sell out. Hell, if Indiana is, let's see, I still think I've said it, and don't forget me, a path to 6-0. I think Indiana gets to the 6-0 mark, and that Nebraska game, that's going to be something. But if they get to 6-0, it's just gravy after that. But I'm telling you, the crowds, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan, and Purdue, why would those 4 games not sell out? Because Indiana will already be winning. So you're going to have a winning team against some great programs, a winning Nebraska team, a winning Washington team, Michigan. It's Michigan, people, and Purdue. There is no way on God's green earth Indiana has had 4 sellouts in the same season. So I think they're going to set yet another record. And it's all part of the movement. I think it's going to be a fun ride, and I am here for it. We'll have Kurt Signetti meeting with the media today up on our Indiana Sports Beat YouTube channel. And of course, you'll hear from him tomorrow here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio as we're back on Tuesday. Now, this weekend we'll be in Pasadena. As a matter of fact, the show will be coming to you live from Pasadena on Friday, as I'll be out there already. And then, of course, the post-game show on Saturday from the Rose Bowl. Looking forward to that. I have been to the parking lot of the Rose Bowl, but that's as close as I've gotten. But hopefully we'll pick that up. Big thanks to everybody today on the program. Of course, starting it out with our good friend Greg Rakestraw from the ISC Sports Network, Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, and Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Big thanks to each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here. And Skyler for keeping us between the white lines. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle from the Hard Truth Studios. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.